Good evening. Welcome to the Village Board meeting in the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, July 26. If you're watching live on Monday, July 26, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. The call-in number is 769-1677. As you probably know, you can also catch us on Cablevision, cable TV. We expect within the next several months, Verizon will fulfill its contractual requirement to be carrying the public access education and government channels on its FiOS system as well. But as of the moment, that has not happened. They had, I believe, 180 days from the point of signing to execute that, and the point of signing was around about April 1. So
That's about right.
hopefully that'll be completed soon. But in addition to that, you can also see us live and through on-demand web streaming at pctv76.com. So, and a couple of announcements to make. One of them was that you drive down Bedford Road towards the area of the former Lukoil, now American gas station, and you will see that the traffic light that has been installed at that area is now energized and unwrapped and blinking. It's in a blinking phase while the required characters from the state show up to synchronize this new light with the lights all along Bedford Road. They assure us that that will happen, Patty, next couple of weeks.
Should be done in a couple of weeks. Hopefully by our next board meeting, we can
At any rate,
report that the light is.
and when that happens, the stop sign will go away
That's
that
right.
currently appears as you're coming from the direction of Pace and facing the now American gas station, and it will be controlled by a traffic light. The walk signals are already operational. That happened last week over by the corner of Jean Jacques. So there is now a dedicated walk signal in that intersection. There never had been before, and that occasions a resolution that we have on tonight to authorize the village clerk to publish the elimination of a school crossing guard post at that location. That would be the crossing across Marble Avenue at Bedford Road by Jean Jacques. And our reason for doing that is that there has been substantial request for a crossing guard post at Manville Road and Great Oak Lane. And a number of us, myself included, have observed that area on a few different mornings and agreed that it's a significant issue. Now that we have a dedicated walk cycle at Jean Jacques, and that crossing is now similar to a couple of other crossings that school traffic encounter thereafter. We propose to move the existing crossing guard post from that location over to Manville and Great Oak. So that is a matter that we have up for vote tonight as resolution number 171.
Has the school been notified of that? I'm sure they have.
They will be after tonight.
And I have contacted the school board, and they're aware of it, as they were aware of our discussions when this was first discussed quite a few months ago.
I have a
It'd
few
be so
questions
much
about the- you
easier.
just hold this to the resolution.
Yeah, why don't we hold it to the resolution? It may be that there are just difference of opinion about it, but the discussion
Questions?
will be on tonight. I received a letter from the president of the Stellaris Health Network. Stellaris is the health network that is the consortium of Phelps, Northern Westchester, Lawrence Hospital in Bronxville, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. White Plains Hospital, right. They're at an impasse with Empire Blue Cross, and they have sent a letter updating the village on that subject, both for the purpose of public information from their standpoint and also because village employees are covered on a flavor of Empire Blue Cross. So we continue to have it as a point of concern here as on behalf of our employees, and I know many of us also are concerned about it because we have Empire Blue Cross through our own plans. But as of the moment, Empire Blue Cross has not arrived at an agreement with these four hospitals, and their plan is not honored there at the moment. If you're interested in the subject, I recommend that you log on both to the Stellaris member hospital websites and also to the Empire Blue Cross website and see which side of the story is more compelling to you, but clearly it's a significant problem, and there isn't any question that the absence of a Blue Cross plan at these four neighboring hospitals is a significant hardship for a lot of our employees as well as for a lot of Pleasantville residents. So I can't help but believe that resolution of this might be pushed along if people were vocal about their opinion, and I encourage you to, again, check out the Stellaris opinion as well as the Blue Cross opinion. As you might imagine, they have a different view of the problem, but there has to be a way forward, and it would be helpful to see something like that happen. So I also wanted to mention, a lot of you may have been reading in the newspaper, as all of us have, some interesting discussions that have gone on regarding police consolidation. A little bit earlier, there were three communities, the Village of Ossining, the Town of Ossining, and the Village of Briarcliff, had shared together in the cost of a study to look at merging those three entities' police department. Since then, there has also been reports that the Town of Ossining was interested in floating a proposal to have their police services taken over by the county police. And then, more recently than that, a proposal for the provision of police services by the Village of Ossining to the Town of Ossining. So we are, all of us, in possession of a bunch of stacks of paper about that, and really quite an interesting discussion, a discussion that obviously has impacts for all of us in Westchester County as we think about the best and most cost-effective way to provide services going forward. And I just wanted to point it out to let you know that we are very much engaged in the business of looking at that and thinking about the way forward on our own behalf in thinking about the future of our budget. So last thing I had on my list to mention is that we have a vacancy on the library board. The library board includes members from the village and members from the town, and we have a vacancy that's a village position, and so we'll check our files to see if anyone is already in the file. But if anyone would be interested in serving on the library board of directors, I see you, Theda. You could come back for a second run.
So I met Theda in 1992.
It's a great bunch of people, and I think a rather rewarding role. A lot of people may not be aware of it, that the Town of Mount Pleasant Library is a joint venture that is funded in part by the village and in part by the Town of Mount Pleasant, but it's actually an independent entity that is managed and run by its own board. So if anybody's interested in serving on the village board, we encourage you to get in contact with Patty Dwyer at Village Hall.
Library board.
Let her know of your interest, because we have a position to fill on that front. So anybody else have anything to? Are there any oral communications from the audience? 769-1677. Our next regular meeting is on Monday, August 9 at 8 p.m. We have a work session at 7 p.m. I can also report that the village, Patty and the village finance office gave us some information this week about the state of our fund balances. That's the amount of money, in essence, that we have in the bank at the conclusion of a fiscal year in each of our various funds. And the results are in large part where we expect them to be. Patty, I was thinking it might be useful at some point, perhaps maybe in September, to have Mary from the finance office do a presentation about the results of operations from the fiscal year that we closed at the end of May.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Because I think it's helpful for people to take a look at sort of a postmortem of where we ended up and how that compared to the expectations we had when we planned the new budget. So let's put that on the agenda for.
And I could say we're pretty much on target. I think we're in good shape. We knew where we'd end up, and we're pretty close to those actual numbers. But we still know we have a lot of work to do before we get into the next budget cycle.
No doubt. We had some encouraging news, although uncertain news, in the form of our last quarterly sales tax payment. The village gets a percentage of the sales tax that's collected in the county, and I guess the sales tax collections in the county were substantially up in the last quarter. Hard to square that with the fact that, if I recall correctly, the sales tax collections in Rockland for the same quarter were actually slightly down. So I certainly don't think it presages a trend that we can count upon, but in terms of the quarterly payment that we received for the last quarter, we're up a bit relative to what we expected. So we continue to monitor all of our revenue streams as well as all our expense streams, and we'll be engaged over the next couple of months in a significant discussion, including on the most pressing front, a discussion about whether and how to use bonded indebtedness in a time of very low interest rates as compared to other means of raising money for a couple of things that are on the near-term horizon. So that was my report on that front. We can move to the resolutions. Steve, number 163.
Resolved that pre-check register dated July 26, 2010, covering check numbers 67029 through 67151, wire transfer 67030 has been reviewed. It's hereby approved as listed below. The general fund, $287,921,036. Miscellaneous fund, $5,891. Water fund, $115,978.51. Capital fund, $110,076.81. For the refuse fund, $74,801.65. For the pool fund, $7,987.34. For the trust and agency fund, $11,851.74, for a total of $614,508.41.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, July 12th, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Jonathan, number 165.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the request from Clark Street residents to hold their block party on Saturday, September 4th, that should be 2010, from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Is there a second?
Good eyes.
Second.
Lucky Jonathan caught that, otherwise Clark Street would have to be moving back a millennium in order to celebrate.
I got Clark Street's back.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Brian, number 166.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby accepts the following donations. Anonymous donations in the amount of $288 to the Clinton Street Center for Senior Programs. Paula Majorano, $50 to the Pleasantville Music Festival. And Patricia Dwyer, $1,000 to the Pleasantville Music Festival.
Is there a second?
Second.
I want to thank every one of these people, and one of those people is sitting right here among us.
That's
So,
my pleasure. It's a lot of fun.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
very much.
With as hard as you worked that day.
And in the 2 weeks,
And in the 2 weeks prior.
in the 2 weeks prior, it's a remarkable contribution.
Annette made me look very good. That's all I can say.
Well,
She's the one that had to
Thanks
suffer through
to
it.
both of you while we have you here. I mean, there isn't any question that the music festival is kind of an all-consuming event, especially when the final couple of weeks and sprint to the finish come up, and you guys maintain an air of calm amid all kinds of reasons to feel otherwise. So,
It was a pleasure.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Annette.
And to think that Patty is paying us for the pleasure of doing it is even more remarkable. So, thank you. Did we vote? I don't think we did. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Steve, number 167.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendment. Increase revenue and expense for the chlorination capital project and fund from the water fund. The amount to increase is $1,500 each, I presume, Patty, to the revenue budget code and the expense budget code.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is to fund the design of a chlorination plant that was the subject of our work session before we came on TV tonight. We receive our water, as many of you know, through the Newcastle filtration plant, which is in Millwood, and we are a part owner in that plant, and the result is that we get very clean filtered water. What happens is chlorine is added to the water when it leaves the Millwood plant, but by the time it gets to the more distant areas of our system, the chlorine has been spent or dissipated, and we have at certain times been using a manual system, carefully documented, of adding chlorine at our water tanks by hand. The county health department has decreed that that system is no longer acceptable and that we have to have an automated mechanism to do this, and so we're in the midst of a discussion with PCI, who are our engineers and consultants on the water system, about how to do this and whether there's a way to do it for less than the roughly all in, including design fees, something like $375,000 or $80,000 that we're currently looking at. But it appears that we need to do something, and we're in the midst of discussing what it is, and this interfund transfer reflects the part of the cost of the work we've done so far. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Mindy.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village administrator, to prepare and sign an easement agreement with Francis Moretti for the property located at 30 Columbia Avenue, Pleasantville, New York.
Columbus.
Columbus, I'm sorry.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, you want to describe this situation?
Yeah, I do, and I think I had the pleasure of talking with Ms. Moretti about a year or so ago about some problems that were occurring on the street. It's a dead-end area of Columbus Avenue, and a lot of people are walking dogs down there and letting them defecate all over the right-of-way, not picking it up. And without success, we've been there on occasion, but we've never been able to catch the culprit. So we put some more signs up. We were hoping there'd be a good neighbor policy. I spoke to some people in the neighborhood who knew people that had dogs and the like, but there's still some problems down there. And one of the things that Mike Testa suggested, and I think Steve Buck-Fusker, after visiting several times, is that perhaps if the fence was moved out, we'd have a lot less intrusion. And I think that's appropriate. Mike didn't see a problem with it, and we've done this in many other occasions in areas, and I think it would take better care of our right-of-way anyway if the fence were moved closer to the curb line, so.
All right, so this
Would
would
you
be...
like to add something? Ms. Moretti?
No, other than the fact that I have a problem with the dogs. There's also a problem.
I'm sorry, could you come up?
No, so you have to come up to a microphone.
Oh, it's
all
easier,
right.
thank you, it's easier to project your voice that way.
I'm sorry.
And thank you for joining us, it's nice to see you.
Thank you. The other problem is that it tends to be a garbage dump
Right.
because of the way that the fence is now and bushes and there's just all kinds of things there.
Right.
Liquor bottles, coffee cups, it goes on and on. And if anyone has passed down there, I'm investing a lot of money on landscaping, and I really don't want it disturbed.
Understood.
What about the snow removal? Is that going to be an issue or?
No.
No?
No, we'll be fine.
I don't know if they
Right.
plow, that's a pretty much dead end, right?
Yes,
At the end, yes.
they plow into the corner
Into the
Right.
corner?
of Lennox and Columbus.
Well, it seems like a happy solution to the problem that will benefit everybody, and it's an easement agreement similar to easement agreements that we have in quite a few other situations with people who
It's not a
have
problem.
fences on village property. So, speaking for myself, sounds like a good solution, and I hope it solves your
Oh,
problem.
I hope so too.
I hope so too.
Although people still won't pick up after their dogs. I think
Well,
we need to
They're not going to go around the
remind-
fence, we hope.
Well, that's right.
Right.
I mean, it's a really bad situation.
It's
when
an extremely bad
Dog walkers don't do
situation.
that. So you serve to remind us one more time that, we can say it one more time, that people have to realize that they have to, regardless of where they are, your street or my street, have to, if your dog defecates, pick it up. That's the law.
That's right.
So,
Well, there's a heavy presence of tenants in
That area.
that 2-block, 3-block area. So obviously they have no connection with owning property and
Right.
keeping it nice, and it's unfortunate.
And you put signs up, the village put signs?
We did.
They put a second sign.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, I think it's too high.
Yeah.
We'll go take a look.
But I put my own on the fence.
It didn't help.
No,
Well, here's hoping moving the fence does
Well,
help. It seems
I
like
hope
a
so.
reasonable solution, and here's hoping it works, and thank you for your patience with this, and also for the investment you're making in your neighborhood. So,
thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks. I'll be in touch with you
Okay.
either through just a direct contact, or Mike or Steve will come visit, but I'll get the paperwork to you.
All in
Thank
favor?
you, too.
Aye. Motion approved. Resolution number 169, we're going to table. That is approval of PCI's proposal for design services for the aforementioned water chlorination facility. We're tabling it simply because we continue to be in discussion with PCI about exactly what the right way to go is and whether there's a way to address this problem in a more cost-effective manner. So we're going to table number 169 while we continue that discussion. So number 170, Jonathan.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village administrator to renew and sign the food service establishment permit with Westchester County Department of Health for the Clinton Street Senior Center.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is a standard thing that we have to,
Annual Health Department
Right.
permit, yes, we're
for the
required to be
kitchen and the Meals on
licensed.
Wheels operation that we
That's
run
right.
at the senior center. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Brian, number 171.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village clerk to prepare a notice for publication in the Journal News advising of the elimination of a school crossing guard post at Marble and Bedford Road effective September 1, 2010.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is the proposal that I mentioned earlier in our discussions. We have for a long time had a crossing guard at that location in front of Jean-Jacques, which is the corner of Marble Avenue and Bedford Road, assisting school kids in crossing. We have now come to the final lap of the pedestrian improvements all along the corridor, starting back near Heller's Shoe Store and Key Foods and working its way up Bedford Road to the corner by Marble. And we now have a dedicated walk signal, so like we have at quite a number of other downtown intersections, you can now press and get a dedicated walk signal which stops traffic in all directions. So this proposal is to take the crossing guard position that we have always funded in this location and move it to another location that's the subject of many requests, and that is the crossing location at Manville Road and Great Oak Lane. Are there questions or comments?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a couple questions. The issue the question I have down there with the with doing this is that there's still coming up Pleasantville, or excuse me, Bedford Road. There's still the slipstream to the right-hand side that's controlled only by a stop sign.
Turning right
Turning
in
right,
front of Jean-Jacques.
which I can tell you nobody stops. They yield maybe, but they fly right through that thing. And the crosswalk requires the kids to go through that slipstream onto the island before there's a controlled light that allows them to walk. And I thought that, and I had mentioned this earlier, and maybe I missed the meeting, that we were going to eliminate that slipstream for precisely that reason, but we didn't. And that's fine, but I don't put that in context with the old village where there is controlled lights there, but no slipstream issue. Is the policy that we just eliminate all crossing guards where we have controlled lights, or would it, or if not, if there's a more measured approach, if that's the case, wouldn't it make more sense to take the crossing guard from the old village, where you don't have that slipstream issue, and move them to Manville Road, if indeed that's a desired thing to do?
Well, I don't think there's a single right answer to it. And I mean, the question we had when this was discussed back, must have been last fall, was a whole series of questions. Different people have a different view of the level of concern about crossing in different areas. Certainly some people felt that the crossing in the old village on Broadway and Bedford Road there was by and large faster traffic, and people were concerned about that. I don't know if we actually have counts of how many kids are crossing any location.
We can get those. I mean,
Right.
141 is also a truck route, you know, so there's a little different, there's a different level of traffic
Right.
there, but, you know, it's a good point you're making.
is.
We do have the ability, though, to encourage people to cross from PhotoWorks, you know, over to the plaza. It doesn't involve that
But,
slippery.
it's not necessarily, up in front of, on 141, all the crossing guard does there is push the button. And that's a
right.
fact, yeah. And then he'll maybe walk halfway out, but over by where you're talking about,
She goes out on the road, I see her.
yeah, but your concern was that they can go into that little slip without, there's still.
Who's they, the cars or the children?
The
Yeah.
children could go in there without, but they are still regulated by the walk sign. That's still controlled by the walk sign. Your concern is that people aren't stopping there and they're just gonna walk out there
Right,
because it
because
says walk?
they're told to walk, they can walk,
Right.
but the cars, what happens, and I'm sure we've
Yeah.
all been there, is you're lined up on Bedford Road,
Right.
heading up into the village,
Right.
and there's a car in front of you, and you want to make a right. He moves forward past the parked cars,
Right.
and all of a sudden you see that opening, so you zoom out and go around,
That's right.
and you zoom right into the slip lane, and here's some kid that's got a walk
So it's
sign
basically the
going
stop
right up there.
sign.
We've been told stop signs are
Right.
not traffic
Well-
control devices.
The stop
It's an
sign isn't
issue.
going to
They are
stop the
traffic.
traffic
And
because
as a
the
matter of
kids,
fact, there are
that's true.
two situations like that down there. One is if you're going
The
down
other
where
way.
Heller's is on
Yeah.
your right,
Where you are.
and you're going, as if you're going
Right,
to
and I've questioned
7-Eleven.
the county on both of those, and both of those decisions were made by their engineers.
Well,
and
the
they-
question I have
they're
is, where
standing on those
where
decisions.
else in the county can you remember that situation happening? A stop sign before a slipstream like that? Where else is that?
Oh, I'm sure
I
there's
mean,
other
I must say,
places.
the
On
first
Pleasantville
time.
Road, they've got a stoplight there. There's a slipstream there heading towards Briarcliff.
Right,
On all those, they've got there's
there's no
actually a
turn-
stop sign.
no
And a
turn on red.
right turn on
no
red.
right turn on red.
We can make it no right turn on school days, school hours, that's done a lot. We can regulate that.
No,
No right turn?
No right turn Monday to
Even though
Friday,
the
Well,
7
stop
a.m.
sign and the
What-
light is not governing that
You can do
turn, it's
that.
the stop sign that is.
You know, it also may be that after a while, I mean, the first time I drove along with Heller's on my right and turned right, I didn't stop. I mean, you don't expect a stop
Right,
sign
well,
there.
we're not
And so
used to
my
it,
kids said,
yes.
Dad, there's a stop sign. Whoa, okay. Usually it's a yield sign there, or at least it was. So now it's a
Well, we
stop
have to
sign. I
have
think
a-
it's almost a
Yeah,
training
We've looked at all of that,
session
and we have to regulate those signs,
Yeah.
we
But I think Jonathan's point is a good
I
one.
question in the
Actually,
county, but
I-
we still don't have those codified, but they have to be in the code. I was hoping that they would go back to yield, because that's what everybody's been used to,
Right.
but
That's
they
right.
said
Well,
no.
you'd have to have it where that turn is controlled by the light, not the stop sign.
It almost should
Like,
say
they would have
yield-
to stop
yield-
there.
yield
It's like
to
any other
pedestrian.
intersection where,
But they don't have to if there's a
timing
stop
issue with
sign.
people going first. I mean, any corner intersection is like that, where, the people go with the direction of the traffic, so whether it's a slip ramp or just stepping off the curb, you have to watch for cars turning.
Right.
Is there a yield to pedestrians sign at that point?
The only yield they left is by 7-Eleven coming down the hill.
Right.
no, he meant
That's
yield to
another
yield
issue
pedestrians.
altogether.
Yeah.
Is what are we gonna do with 7-Eleven? Not that I want to dilute this conversation with that, but people.
Because everybody's turning left now, because the island's too short. It's
Well, they're
a-
shooting up across and making a right,
And there's
actually.
not the
That's
no
right.
left turn sign there.
That's a planning board site plan issue. I don't think they're
Yeah.
allowed to make a left out of 7-Eleven.
You're not, but there's no sign.
Everybody
That says
does.
no left turn.
It's a common thing.
7-Eleven will have to put their sign back. We'll visit that.
Well, I mean, that again, that's not the issue at,
Right.
so Jonathan, are you thinking that it might conceivably be wiser to eliminate the crossing post at Almongiari?
I'm not a safety, I don't know the safety implications. I'm just speaking on a relative basis. I would rather, I think that intersection, you need to go through a year with the kids and everybody else to see what happens down there before you just pull up, I think you should, before you pull a crossing guard off there versus what we know on a relative basis to exist in the old village, which seemingly just stacking the two together, we know more about what's going up there, and it seems safer on a relative basis. I'm not saying it's safe at all, but safer to consider pulling a crossing guard off that traffic-controlled light and putting them somewhere else than it would be down here.
I'm
There'd be
sure.
increased liability to pull that crossing guard.
I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure that the people up, that those kids cross over there, I'm sure those people would
But, I mean,
beg to differ with
I'm not
us.
making an
But I agree
absolute
with
statement.
you.
I'm just
I-
making a relative statement.
So Patty, in order to make a change of this kind, it has to be publicly noticed a certain number of weeks before the change is actually made. So if we had in mind executing a change in time for school, delaying
Well,
this decision to
yeah.
the next meeting is too late? Or
No,
not?
but it's a matter of public notice. I mean, if
Right.
we can get adequate notice out, whatever that's determined to be, it's,
I mean, the chief.
it's actually something that.
Nobody's home now anyway.
It's not written in stone. No,
Uh-huh.
and
I
the
mean,
notice requirements are not written in
Yeah.
stone, but they are certainly warranted in these types of situations because
Oh, no,
people
that
have
is
come to
definitely
rely
something
on.
that this town is, this
Yeah,
village
people
is
have come
gonna
to
wanna
rely
know
on
about.
seeing a crossing
That-
guard there, so.
That'll cause people to come to a meeting.
There's
change
no,
a crossing
my
guard.
point is, there's no legal requirement to notice.
There isn't like
No,
4 weeks
but
in
we'd
advance?
be totally,
I think,
we'd be in a difficult situation to defend our lack of notice if
When-
somebody
we
got
don't-
hurt.
we don't want to surprise anyone. you know.
Yeah. When does school open?
Middle of
September
September.
2nd, there are classes, and then they don't have
What,
it.
September what?
Second and third, they have classes, and then they don't have them for 4 or 5 days.
So
When's
September
Labor
2nd.
Day?
The Yeah.
Labor Day is the
Yeah.
6th.
So they're
school-
starting school before Labor Day?
School
For
begins,
some people, yeah.
Some
Like my
people.
daughter has orientation on the 2nd.
well, certainly, we discussed this in concept some months ago. The thing that's different now is that we can actually see how the intersection worked out and the issue that Jonathan points out. So I suppose the logical thing to do is table this for the next meeting and use the next 2 weeks to,
But we're not going to get much data in the
well,
next
but
2
what, I
weeks.
mean, what we're going to have to do is get the chief and perhaps the Public Safety Committee, if they can weigh in on this subject, to see if they have a concern about the notion of making this change in the way we proposed.
Well, did the chief weigh in on this?
The chief, I've discussed it with him, and he has not argued to the contrary.
No, he recommended only considering changing that post when the walk cycle was in place, so
Right.
not prior to that.
I think I do
'Cause it is busy.
remember
It's a busy
something about
intersection.
him saying that the old village was in, because when we were thinking about maybe pulling that for something else, he wasn't comfortable with that.
I do recall that, although I don't recall exactly what the issues were.
You know,
Yeah,
I just think that, you know, none of us has even experienced that walk cycle, what it feels like to stand there with a walk sign going on. And here it is, a month to school. We're already talking about, and none of us knows what that walk cycle is like.
Well, it's working now.
Okay,
It's
but I haven't had a
operational,
chance to
yes,
walk it, and people are out of town. It just seems to me that, I mean, I'm sympathetic to the argument that maybe we're trying to rush this, and maybe leaving it in place for a few months is not a bad idea.
Well, I think it's hard to change it once the school year starts. I mean, it's not impossible, obviously, but hard to change it once the school year starts, and I can assure you that the people who feel strongly about the Manville and Great Oak Lane one feel equally strongly on the subject. Obviously, no matter what
Right.
change you make, it affects somebody's interests, but
That spot in the old village too is also used for a gathering point for that walk to school week. They meet on that corner there and walk to school at Bedford Road School.
Mind you, I'm not suggesting.
I know- no, but
that
you
or
have a
anything.
very
I'm just
good
saying that
point,
they've
though.
got, I just know that there's a traffic control device there.
Right.
Complete with a crossing guard.
Straight across.
There may
too,
be one
no.
at the Sawmill Parkway too, so,
Yes.
you know, I could use that as an example. I mean,
Yeah.
And Pleasantville Road and Manville Road by Ford on that corner.
in Pleasantville, or by, yeah, any of those you could use.
I never wait for those signs anyway. Just walk. It's terrible. It's the city. It's being in New York.
let's not take
Yeah,
Mindy's
don't take my advice.
on this
Wait for the
subject.
signs.
Mindy's just been fired as the crossing guard. Yeah, get going.
As the school board liaison.
Okay, I don't think we have much choice but to table this and put it
Okay.
on for our discussion in the next meeting. I'll speak to the chief and we can report to him the tenor of the discussion tonight and get his advice.
He's probably watching. We should wish him
Call in, chief.
well.
We all should take a walk over there too, spend some time checking
Okay.
that out.
Standing in the
In the
slip
slip.
lane and
That's
see how
the
long it
slip
takes to
lane.
get
See how many people want to hit us.
Motion to table number 171.
Put Steve out there with a helmet on.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's tabled.
We're good?
We're good. I think we've gone through our resolutions, and we have some work session items to continue with, and one of them is we'll be having an executive session discussion with representatives from our PBA on a variety of matters, including some contractual matters. So, any other comments, questions, announcements? There being none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So,
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at our meeting on August 9.